They were never sure that they would come back home. They had never thought that they would leave it in the first place. Never thought that they would cross the Emudaro River panic-stricken under a hail of bullets. They had never thought that they would kill or be killed. Now they know how close is war to peace. After many months of hesitation, they are cautiously taking a step back.
We came in not knowing a great deal about Tajikistan, and I must say that the pace of events, the speed with which the civil war developed, surprised all of us. 12 days after we opened our embassy, the first demonstrations began in Shahidan Square, just about a kilometer from here. Those demonstrations lasted for almost 2 months and led essentially to the kind of tensions that erupted very shortly thereafter in communal fighting and then a full civil war, particularly in the south, gradually extending into the region of the capital. It was a very great surprise for us, and continued to be a surprise. We had been struck from the very beginning by the high culture of this country, the hospitality of the people, the humor and the gentleness in a very real sense of these people, and the barbarity of this particular civil war, region against region, clan against clan, continues to amaze us as we've come to know these Tajik people, that there could have been such intense feeling between them. During the summer, we had been delivering food supplies, medicines and so on in large convoys down to the south. This involved, in many cases, crossing lines, going across an opposition line into a Kulyabi area, or vice versa. And it was interesting to me that whereas had we tried to do this in practically any other civil war context, it would have been not simply difficult, but impossible.
The civil war that raged from June to November 1992 was violent, perhaps more violent than other recent conflicts in the ex-Soviet Union. Tens of thousands are reported to have died. Hundreds of thousands left their homes, many forever. Atrocities were committed, and committed by both sides. Tajiks fought Tajiks, divided as they were, mainly along regional lines. Ojand, Kulyab, Gam, the Pamirs. Tensions existed before, but they were controlled by the Soviet regime. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, independence came, somewhat unexpectedly, and the capacity to maintain order broke down. So did the economy. Tajikistan, which received large subsidies from Moscow, found itself deprived of its lifeline. Poverty spread fast. The war was most intense in the province of Kurgan-Tubey, now renamed Hatlon, pitting Kulyabis against Gamis and Pamiris. The latter lost and fled in all directions, including Afghanistan. Whole villages went into exile, inside or outside, after which their houses were looted, burnt, sometimes razed to the ground. Trees were felled, electricity poles brought down, water taps sawn off. The message from the winners was clear: do not return. The UNHCR provided emergency assistance to those who had reached northern Afghanistan. Camps, like Saki near Mazar-e-Sharif, were built in a few days, but conditions were harsh. Life often came close to death. Many refugees died of sickness or in the crossfire of warring Afghan factions. When the refugees started returning home, the UNHCR was already there trying to reconcile the old enemies, or at least to keep them apart. It was not an easy task. A civil war leaves many quarrels unsettled, many wounds that only heal with time.
This is Mrs. Amur Begim. She's a widow, and she had 4 of her sons during the war. So she's left with a lot of her, the 4 wives of her daughter-in-laws and the grandchildren, etc. So she has no manpower to build her house. She's a recipient of wood from UNHCR, but she has no manpower. The kolkhoz has agreed to help and reconstruct, with the help of UNHCR, with some assistance from UNHCR, to rebuild her house.
Close to 20,000 houses have been destroyed. Refugees are coming back to ruins, but they know how to build mud brick walls. When provided with wood and roofing materials, they can rebuild a home in a few days. Sometimes, though, they can't. The men of the kolkhoz have to help the widows. Mail comes and goes between those who have returned to Tajikistan and those still waiting in Afghanistan. The UNHCR is the postman, a pleasant role that ensures a flow of up-to-date and reliable news.
I was here when people were harassed or even murdered, and now it's a completely different situation after a certain period of time where I see them working in the fields, getting their jobs back, or sharing happy occasions like this one when I've come to give them letters and inform them of who is coming from their relatives tomorrow by a train coming back from Afghanistan. I mean, the problems that they face now is either lack of food and I mean, do they have fertilizers for the wheat and the vegetables that they're planting, which is, of course, I mean, nothing compared to being having a life in danger.
The loss of Soviet assistance, the civil war, floods in 92, 93, and again in 94 have plunged Tajikistan into decay and poverty. Production is down to less than 40% of its 1988 level and is still declining. Salaries are not paid regularly, unemployment grows in the city and in the countryside. The most immediate needs of the population are perhaps met, but no one deals with a long-term emergency that will run beyond the end of the century. Russia and the neighboring countries of Central Asia have serious problems of their own. The rest of the world has almost forgotten the Tajiks. News. Some of the production is taken to the market, where Tajiks meet and make friends again. A new constitution and new laws are being put in place, and will, hopefully, set the rules for a peaceful political game.
CSCE mission in Tajikistan has been involved in providing expert commentary on the draft constitution. We sent a copy to some of our experts in Europe and America and received back various comments which I have been putting together into a document where we've commented on various articles. Most of the draft is excellent and reflects a genuine desire for a democratic state based on law. However, we found many small points where we could see improvement. For example, one interesting one was in Article 66, where they talk of the draft speaking about who's eligible to be a candidate for president. The draft mentions an adult between 35 and 65, any citizen who knows the state language, who has lived on the territory of Tajikistan for at least the past 10 years. We noticed that that requirement of having lived here might eliminate somebody who had fled as a refugee and had lived in Sakhi camp during the past year or so. So we're mentioning that that provision should be dropped. Another one, for example, in Article 18, while it guarantees rights to all regardless of sex, language, religion, political stance, social status, we believe that there should be a separate mention of equality of men and women. This is, for example, a mistake that the American Constitution made in leaving out equal rights for women. And now, 200 years later, we're fighting in America to have equal rights for women included. We'd like to have Tajikistan avoid that problem and get it right the first time.
Politics remain far from the mind of most Tajiks who eke out a modest living from the land. They know, though, that there is not much to expect from the state, or even from the kolkhoz to which they remain attached. However, a new society will emerge out of the ashes of the old, a new culture which combines the disparate elements of the past.
Приняли 809 человек. Это 224 семьи. Приняли, сейчас они находятся в Термезе, проходят медицинский осмотр. В этом нам сильно помог Узбекистан. Спасибо узбекскому правительству, что так заботится о наших беженцах. В прошлом году, например, вывоз беженцев, репатриация остановилась по случаю распространения болезни холера. В этом году, вот сейчас, вот в данный момент, в этом поезде 2 человека, заболевшие малярией, и очень много дизентерии. Состояние самих беженцев трудное очень. Вот. Но я думаю, что они, пребывая здесь, на родине, они быстро восстановятся.
One thing is certain. Most Tajiks want to forget the experiences of the last 2 years. Memories of the civil war are, for many, unbearable. That may be the best chance for peace in Tajikistan.